You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr. welcoming you to a lap extra mile for today, August 31st, 2023. While the regular season is over in NASCAR, the playoffs are on their way. IndyCar is on the cusp of crowning a champion, and Ferrari is just looking upon a respectable show in their hometown. We're going to talk about all of that here on today's program. My co-host will be joining me a little bit later, so you have just me for the start of the show. Make sure you get your comments in, and we will read them as this show goes on. Great to be talking to you guys again this Thursday. During the weekend, I went over to Maryland International Raceway for some funny car action, which we will talk about in just a moment. Just had to check something on the Zoom, but we are ready to go. But we are live, and on Saturday evening, I was not watching the NASCAR race and sweating every lap like it was the end of days. Instead, I was out watching Funny Car Chaos at MDIR, Nostalgia Funny Car Race, which also included the Burnouts for Bunny and Bear, which is a tribute show for Bunny Burkett, a local racing legend here in Maryland, who unfortunately passed away in 2020 of natural causes. And her car, driven by Gary Pritchett, ended up taking the win in the B category for Funny Car, which was a great show for us to see, and the crowd just went wild when that car crossed when the scoreboard lit up and Pritchett had ended up taking the win there, and a lot of Bunny and the Boys fans are down there in the pits showing their support for the team, and everybody got to go home happy on Sunday. And we'll talk about what happened with the NASCAR race in just a little bit. On Saturday night. And we'll talk about what happened in the NASCAR race in just a little bit. But before then, we're going to get into what happened in the IndyCar race. That was in Gateway. And the one thing I will say about that race is we are now down to 2 in the championship, and it's not every day you get to see the championship disappear from a driver in real time, but frankly, that is what happened. When Joseph Newgarden was trying to get through traffic after a round of pit stops, ended up getting into the marbles that were causing problems all day long, ends up sliding into the turn 2 wall, makes heavy contact with the right side of that car with the wall, comes to pit road. His championship chances were over at that moment. And as you saw at the end of the race, he's just looking at the screen, downtrodden. And it's tough for Newgarden because he was a part of that championship deal all season long, was doing incredible at the ovals. He was actually going for an opportunity to sweep the ovals, and one loss, or momentarily loss of concentration, and he was out of it. And Newgarden ended up finishing in the 25th spot, did not make it back out onto the track. He ended up out after 210 laps. And at this point, I will welcome in Michael Ward, who just joined us here. Michael, good evening to you, and did you get to see any of the IndyCar race from Gateway?
No, I was not able to see the IndyCar race, unfortunately.
Well, you missed a good one, the Bommarito Automotive Group 500, which was won by Scott Dixon, basically on a fuel strategy play, because that's how Scott Dixon does his best work in making sure that fuel lasts as long as it needs to. They basically did a one-stop strategy to the end. And at this point, Michael, I don't know how he does it. He just manages to get more out of, and much more out of a fuel tank than anybody else can ever manage.
I don't know how he manages to do it either. I don't know what's his fuel saving strategy, because there's only so many things, playing these racing games and some of these simulators that we can do to mimic how these drivers work their magic. But he worked his magic,
Yeah. He absolutely is the king of the Lifton Coast. That's all I can say.
Apparently.
He did it earlier this year in Indianapolis with the road course. That was actually on their third trip to Indy. Remember, he got involved in an opening lap crash and ended up coming back to win that race basically by playing the long game. He just went long on his strategy, ended up in a position to win, and ended up getting it. Again, he does that here in Gateway, picks up another win, and now we are going to Portland this week, another road course. If he pulls that off and Pato, has an off day, or not Pato, sorry, Alex Palou has an off day, this championship could be going on to Laguna Seca, but at this point, Alex Palou would need to DNF Portland for that to happen, unfortunately, as Alex has a ho-hum day. Yeah, I mean, he had a ho-hum day, started 14th, finished 7th, but he did what he needed to do. His chief championship rival at the time, Joseph Newgarden, ended up taking himself out of the race because traffic was a big conversation at Gateway just due to how the ovals race, or just how that oval races with how narrow the groove is. But Newgarden takes himself out. He's done for the championship. He's 105 out. It's now going to be between Chip Ganassi teammates to figure out who's going to win this championship. And to be honest, my hat is still with Alex Palou. I think he wraps it up this weekend.
My hat is still with Alex Palou too. I think he definitely has it in the bag this weekend.
And on the other side, though, Takuma Sato, he just kept going up the track in turn 2. He was looking to hit that wall. And on lap 119, he finally did it, pancaked the right side, and ended up out of the race. And that just shows how difficult it is to race at Gateway and why in the IndyCar they don't have that second groove, because once you get to the top side, it's nothing but marbles up there, and that's the little pieces of rubber that are left from the race, that are left from the tire as it wears. And once those marbles get on your tires, there is no way that you have any grip. And he just went slip sliding up into the wall.
Really sad to see his day come to an end, but he was flirting with disaster, and that's what happened. So can't really be too mad at it.
Yeah, he kept going up there, and unfortunately caught the wall, and he was done for the day. So IndyCar will head to Portland this week. And Michael, the big thing about Portland, can they make it through turn 1 without drama? Because I think every year, since they started running this race, they have ended up with some sort of incident in lap 1, going into turn 1, which is a chicane, and I have no idea why they put that chicane there. I guess it's to slow them down before getting down to what is now turn 3 you would call it, but these guys struggle making that chicane for some reason.
Yeah, they struggle with it, and you never know. Cold tires and, somebody feeling a little too ambitious can cause early drama at Portland. So it's just going to take a level head to get through those first 2 chicanes, and I think the rest of the race will go smoothly.
Now, do you think, I'm going to put you on the spot with this one, we get through turn 1 without any issues today? Or on Sunday, sorry.
No.
I think I'll have to agree. I think somebody's going to end up in a wreck. And if you are Alex Palou, you want to qualify up front, or you want to take it easy into that turn 1. Because if he DNFs on Sunday, this championship battle gets a lot more interesting. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the NASCAR finale, and I was not there for it, but I was really happy with the results. We'll talk about it on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show. Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back here in the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Chris, and Michael now with you here this evening as we get into reviewing last week's races and getting you ready for the start of the playoffs here in NASCAR. And thank you to all of you that joined us for our tweet along of the 2004 Sylvania 300 first race of the chase, of the very first NASCAR chase for the playoffs, which was a great watch to see. And to be honest, now that Chris and Michael are here, the one thing that caught me, other than the fact that there were no stages and everything of that nature, I didn't remember that they actually got remnants of a hurricane that week. So they did not get qualifying in. So all the chasers started in the top 10. So we didn't really have that shakeup of the chasers spread all around the field because of the intricacies of the weather for the first chase. They were all starting there 1 through 10.
Yep, they were all nice and clumped together, ready for disaster to happen. I'm just kidding.
Well, there was disaster for Tony Stewart and Jeremy Mayfield, of all people, who was in the chase.
I can understand Jeremy Mayfield getting into the chase. Well, back then, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was consistent.
Yeah, he was back then. Unfortunately, well, we know how Evernham Motorsports fell apart, but it was fun to see that, and there was a lot of pit strategy in that race because at this point you could pit before the competition caution and take fuel. So there were some guys that pitted on an early caution because I believe that was Robbie Gordon that got spun around. There were some folks that decided to pit before that. Before the caution. There were some guys that decided to pit during the competition caution, and all the field was mixed up, which made for a really fun race. But let's get into the present and the Coke Zero 400 from Daytona. And as you guys know, I was at the Funny Car Chaos race at MDIR, which was a lot of fun, seeing about 40 funny cars go down the track at MDIR, and the first time ever that category has been to the East Coast. But I think I'm glad I was there instead of watching the race because I honestly would not have been able to watch that race and not be nervous for every single lap.
Yeah, it was chaos, which we'll definitely get into. But I'm glad that you had a great time at the event that you were at, and you definitely missed a very, very busy night. We'll get into later that there's a lot of criticism that can be had about the crashes and safety and maybe not necessarily criticism. It's quite frankly a miracle that two drivers are here with us today. But I'm glad that you had a good time, Daryl. I'm glad that you were able to get out and see some racing live and in person. And as we all know, that sure as heck beats sitting there on the couch watching it. So,
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm going to try to get to that event next year. But let's get into this Coke Zero 400. The one thing I will say is we finally got to see this car run under the lights at Daytona. And by all looks, or by all measures, it delivered. And I don't know if some of that had to do with the playoffs or what was at stake, but we had some 3 and 4 wide action that was going on during that race, and it was a lot of fun to see. And then unfortunately we got the incidents of what kind of happens when 3 and 4 wide stuff gets going. And we can start with that wreck at the end of stage 2 with Ryan Blaney. I did see that one on the phone as I was going back to the car. That was terrifying. That was the Earnhardt angle. And thank God for the safety in these cars. Because 20 years ago, he's not walking away from that.
I would say more recently than 20 years ago. I'd say probably 10 years ago, he's not walking away from that. I mean, they have come a long way in terms of impacts. And, well, I guess the car tomorrow was pretty safe anyway, but
well, Michael McDowell tested that for us at Texas.
Yeah.
In 2008. Good God. It's not fun. It's only funny because he's alive.
Correct.
But
yeah,
good
it would.
God.
Yeah, it was just, no, it was rough watching that. At first, when I was watching it in person, it didn't really look, I don't want to say that bad, but you didn't even really notice the Blaney hitting the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, you know how it is with the big one, with this race. You know, okay, the front guys are going back. Your eyes, when somebody spins at the front, your eyes automatically shift about 5 rows back to see what happens and who gets through.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you've got a driver like me who's in the 4th row and the first row wrecks out. I knew Bowman was on the inside in row 4, and my eyes darted straight back to him and locked in like homing missiles. So, but
my driver was back there too on the bottom trying to get through that.
American Missile Guidance System.
Yeah, and so, but then they showed the replay, and my jaw about hit the floor. I was like, and Blaney, you could see they cut to his in car like right after the accident, probably not even necessarily realizing how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
and you could see that he was dazed. He looked confused for a minute. That's why when they cleared him out of, or they released him from the infield care center, I was like, no way. Do not let that kid out of there tonight.
Yeah.
Or if you do, somebody's with him all night, because there is zero chance that he didn't leave concussed to some degree. That was a vicious head-on hit. And like you said, that was Dale Earnhardt all over again. Almost identical. So there's, obviously there's not really much you can do about it. Those are just going to happen.
Yeah.
But
and Michael, we've seen a lot of those hits over the last few years where we're like, yeah, the safety innovations just saved another life. Because these guys, the one thing I will say about race car drivers and NASCAR drivers in particular, they find new and interesting ways to hit things a ton in ways that you didn't think they were able to be hit a ton before.
Yeah, not only that, they hit it a ton and still managed to walk away and then also want to come back and keep racing.
Mm-hmm.
I think just that alone is quite a feat.
Yeah, and speaking of that, let's just go ahead and get into the elephant that's in the room. Ryan Preece. I saw that. I saw it in text form. People freaking out about Ryan Preece. And then I got back to the car and saw it.
The video that I sent you?
I have never, in my 33 years of watching NASCAR, that is the worst rollover I have seen.
I agree with you.
And I'm too old. I was slightly too young to remember Rusty Wallace in 93 at Daytona and Talladega. I did see the videos of that. But as far as ones I've seen live, that is the worst. Like, that car hit on the roll bar, shot up into the air about 15, 20 feet, and just took the most brutal set of tumbles I've ever seen. It ripped the escape hatch off the car. It looked like the window net failed, but I'm not sure if it did or not. I don't know how Ryan Preece got out that car. And I'm still lost on how he is alive.
It's miraculous. Not only just in the sense of the destruction of the car, but the G-forces and the stress that his body was put under just from those movements. Mm-hmm. Absolutely insane. I mean, you think about, like, that's maybe not to the degree that, like, like fighter pilots go through, but at the same time, people that are in, and really to get that kind of G-forces, you have to go to the aviation, right? That's where you get those. And these people are you know what, even like Formula One, right? They are pulling some crazy G-forces. But these are people that literally train their bodies to withstand those G-forces. NASCAR, the guys in NASCAR are not training their bodies to absorb G-forces the way that they were put on Preece's body, and the way that G-forces just kind of naturally come to you. They're not trained up. Their bodies aren't as resilient to those. So just the absolute craziness of the forces on his body were enough to do some damage, in my opinion. Not a doctor, but I got enough common sense to realize that had to have hurt in a lot more ways than one.
Oh, it definitely did. And he went to the hospital that night for extra observation, as he should have. Somehow, I thought he wasn't going to be racing this week. Somehow he does not have a concussion. And Michael, I don't know if you saw the flip, but what was your reaction to it? Because my mouth dropped when I saw it. Oh,
saw it live. Can I just be kind of real with you guys for a second? When I was young and watching a Talladega race, I think it was 2004. It was a race where Elliott Sadler went into the air and flipped.
That was, I think that was
Go ahead.
03.
Yeah, I thought that was the coolest thing ever as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I am a 28-year-old man, I am definitely terrified when I see wrecks like that.
I don't know if I should feel old or not that you were a kid when Elliott Sadler went upside down, because I was 13 when that happened.
Yeah, I when we see these things as kids, we think they're cool, but when we see them as adults, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. As you age, it's like watching people get hurt on the internet, right? When you were a kid, it's funny, and now it just hurts to watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same concept.
And it's another thing where you just go back and say, thank God for the 30 years of safety advancements that we've been through in this sport. Because Rusty walked away from his, but he had to go to the hospital for a while. Ryan Preece spent a night in the hospital and got out, and he's going to race this weekend in Darlington. So thank goodness for everything that has been done to protect this sport. But as we get ready for the playoffs, the winner of that race on Saturday night, was Chris Buescher, which means Bubba Wallace, career playoffs number 1 for him as a driver. He did run in the owners' playoffs last year, and when I saw that Buescher won, I wish I got a video of it. We're sitting in the parking lot, or we're about to open the door to the car. I'm checking first to see what happened to the playoffs, and I just let out a scream in the parking lot. Bubba's in we made the playoffs! It just started jumping around. I was so happy.
He played his cards right that race, like he kept his nose out of trouble. He dodged a crazy stage 2 wreck, and with a bit of luck, Chris Buescher won the race. But Chris Buescher, English is hard. Chris Buescher, his resurgence right now is something I did not see coming.
Mm-hmm. I don't know where it's come from.
Who put this on the bingo card?
And I have no idea. It wasn't on mine, but he got with a decent team. And I am so glad that he's finally there, because now he's starting to show that he's actually a decent driver.
Yeah, with the right equipment, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
But I was happy to see Bubba take a win. Or not take a win, get into the playoffs. We'll see what he can do. A lot of people have him out in the first 4, and we will get into our first 4 in a minute. I'm not seeing it. He ran 5th here in the spring. In Kansas, he won this race last year and was 4th in the spring. And during Bristol last year, he was in the top 5 before all the Toyotas imploded due to brake issues. Unless the pit crew has another 23 pit crew moment, I could easily see that 23 getting into the round of 12. And then in that round of 12, he won Talladega. Of course, you do have a road course at the end of it, but he did run well at Watkins Glen, so he could make the round of 12 and be an outside shot for the round of 8, in my opinion.
He can, but will he?
Depends on what that pit crew does,
Exactly.
to be honest. Because when they've had the speed, they've been great until they have to come pit on a late race pit stop. So we are getting ready. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just kind of going into what you were saying, Daryl, Bubba's season has been very unfortunate and mistake prone. not necessarily on his end, but just kind of as a whole team. It just feels like whenever they're up, they're actually down. Um, so I can definitely see where people have him in the first four out, just because the points are all pretty tight. So, people have Kyle Busch going out in the first round, which I think is a little outrageous, but um, he hasn't really been around in the last half of the year. So is it really that outrageous? I think there's going to be a surprise out in the first round. I think somebody who we don't expect, somebody probably in the top 10 is going to be out.
Well, let's get to it. Who do you think will be the first four out?
Give me just a second because I'm looking.
I'll go ahead and read who is in the playoffs now that the 26 are over. William Byron is your number 1 seed. He is 29 points to the good. Tied with him is Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, and Ryan Blaney are your top 12. They are technically into the next round. You know, we haven't started the playoffs. They are in if things were to end now. Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Bubba Wallace. Those are the guys in the bump spot to start the round of 16 this Sunday with the Goodyear 400. Now, going into the grid.
This is a very competitive playoff field. Oh, my God.
It is. I guess I'll start first with who I think my first four out would be. And I really think Kyle Busch is going to be one of the first four out. He just has not looked good. He has not looked good the second half of the regular season. And I think that slump is going to continue right along, and he will be out in the round of 4. As for who else I think is out, Kevin Harvick. Let's be honest, Stewart-Haas Racing has done absolutely nothing this year. So I think that's not going to work out for them. Michael McDowell, he did get the win at the road course, but has that team done enough to where you can say they're auto in for the next round? I don't think so. Now, they might shock you, get some top 15s to go through, but I'm just not sold that Front Row Motorsports is going to have a car go into the next round. And looking at Team Penske, I want to say, as much as I want to say Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to make it, I just have this bad feeling something's going to happen to Ryan Blaney, and he's going to be out. I just really think that Blaney's going to have a Blaney moment, and he's going to be out in the first 4. So that's what I think is going to be out this round. Michael, who do you think does not make it out the round?
This field is so competitive, isn't it? I'm gonna take Stenhouse and Harvick right off the gate because let's be realistic, they've been nowhere. And for the other 2 drivers, it's hard to say because I really want to say Keselowski, and I really feel like Blaney's not gonna make it, but Blaney has been able to sneak his way into the playoffs and go, have a run with it for a while. So it's hard for me to really say, but
really, Keselowski, you got not making it.
Yeah, but then again, he could surprise me. I'm not sure, but it's just the field is really competitive. I don't know who could not make it because all of these drivers that I see right now have a pretty good chance of making it.
And that's the big thing. It's going to be hard to figure out how these playoffs are going to go.
You got
Chris,
William Byron, you got Truex, Busch.
So you're saying Stenhouse and Harvick are out.
Yeah.
Who else? Keselowski and Blaney?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm writing these down. We'll see who has
Chris?
the hottest take on social media.
Chris, who do you got being out?
So mine's fairly simple. You just take the bottom three. So I got Ricky, Harvick, and Bubba, and then throw in Kyle Larson.
Oh, wow. You have Larson going out.
I have Kyle Larson going out, yeah.
That you talking about us. That's a hot take right there.
HMS has been kind of dog poo, with the exception of William Byron.
Now, if it was William Byron that went out, I think Hendrick Motorsports would start burning
Kyle
down.
Larson has the worst luck on the planet when it comes to getting a bad well, maybe not as bad as Bubba, but Kyle Larson has gotten some really bad shakes this year, and I don't think karma's going to pay him back this playoff. I think William Byron will win the championship, but I think it's going to come at, I think the piper has to be paid, and Larson goes out in the round of 16.
I'm still trying to figure out how William Byron won 5 races.
Quietly.
Just
extremely.
He's look at, he's dominated this year. Sim racer. Maybe there's something to being a really good sim racer.
I guess
it's all Max does is run simulator too.
Yep. I'm surprised you have Ricky making it though to the round of 12. I just don't see it.
I don't.
Oh.
Are you talking? You said you had. I said the bottom 3, which is Stenhouse, Harvick, and Wallace.
Oh, so you have McDowell making it.
I do.
I have McDowell making it too because
you do.
Yeah, because
So Daryl, I have you saying Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Michael McDowell, and Ryan Blaney.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got Stenhouse making it through.
Yes.
Michael has Stenhouse, Harvick, Keselowski, and Blaney, and then I have Bubba, Stenhouse, Harvick, and Larson.
And I think Stenhouse is going to do just enough to make it another round, but that's going to be it. I think he'll make it to the round of 12, and that's it.
We'll see. We'll find out. We'll be talking about it in 4 Thursdays from now.
Yep. And as we go into Darlington, the Goodyear, or the Southern, I said the Goodyear 400. I'm sorry. This is the Southern 500. Sacrilegious that I said that. It's the Goodyear 400. But the Southern 500, we're coming in, and usually you were like, oh yeah, this is throwback weekend, but they moved that because this is the first playoffs race.
It should be throwback. This weekend should be throwback weekend.
I feel that too. They should have kept this as the throwback. It feels really weird for it to be in May, especially when we got attached to it being on this date with the Southern 500. Like, I get it. I guess some sponsor marketing guy got irritated because it's the first race of the playoffs and they're running a bunch of throwback schemes. But come on, dude, have fun. Like, don't be allergic to fun. But either way, this is Darlington. It's a tough test. Like we said in May, the Darlington Stripes are going to be out there, and there's ample opportunity for drivers to have issues, particularly early, to take themselves out of a chance of getting through to the round of 12 without getting a win, of course.
You want to go, Michael?
No, you can go ahead. Hello?
I think you are looking at a situation where somebody early in that race is going to have issues, which is why I think Ryan Blaney is on that list, because that would just be Blaney's luck.
Yeah. Somebody has issues early on, or you don't know if a wreck could happen. Darlington sometimes can turn into a crazy race or a straightforward race.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll be crazy.
It will be fun though. And
Didn't yeah, I think this is I think Larson DNFs here, and I think this is the slide.
mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be a good side. I think you're going to get the I think you're going to get the bottom 5 or 6, like Blaney downwards, that know that they got to kind of outperform each other.
Mm-hmm.
As far as points goes. I mean, you got like Busher. The top 4 are probably pretty happy where they are. They've more or less got a race buffer. But I think the bottom 6 are going to cause each other some real havoc. And I feel like one of the guy, like a Larson, Bell, Kyle Busch, they're going to get caught up in it from a bad qualifying. And they're going to have a hard time moving through the field.
We'll see what happens. It'll be fun, and that race will be on Sunday night. And one of the few Sunday night races where I won't hate it because we have an off day, Labor Day Monday. But as we go from NASCAR, we'll transition to IndyCar Formula One before we get to nearest the win. That was a chaotic Dutch Grand Prix, and I don't think I was expecting that. The rain played havoc on Sunday. First, let's start with this. Poor Logan Sargent. Started in the top 10 after all the shenanigans and ends up having a hydraulic failure and just goes straight off the track and into the wall on lap 8. And they kept shooting or taking shots of him sitting there looking like he was just about to cry.
They kept doing that to Charles, too.
Yeah, and like at some point Logan found a chair and he's just sitting there tapping his foot like he's going through all his choices that made him to this moment. Like, why am I even still here? And I'm like, this poor
why am I
kid.
still here? Just to suffer.
That's exactly what he was looking like, though. And like, the poor kid, he's driving a Williams, which, let's be honest, is not the greatest Formula One car. He finally gets into a good position, into a good situation, and it falls apart. By no fault of his own.
Yeah.
Absolutely a killer.
Yeah. No, I was pretty bummed. I was rather bummed for him because I was pretty excited. I mean, he made Q3, which is awesome. And then to have that, man, that sucked.
Yeah. Also sucked for Mr. Charles Leclerc, but I can't really blame the Ferrari pit crew for that, but we're going to get into what they did in a moment. This guy has no luck. And we've talked about it every other race because there's always a Charles Leclerc or Ferrari thing for us to get into. But unfortunately, Michael, I don't think it's going to change unless he gets out of there. Like, he's in that Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso death spiral at Ferrari where just nothing goes right for him.
Yes. Unfortunately, the crazy thing about this car is that it's okay some tracks and bad at other tracks. It's got the F14T, otherwise known as the Lego car.
Mm-hmm.
Situation where it's got understeer and oversteer, so he can't really push it to the limit. If he pushes it to the limit, he'll crash and everybody will roast him on Twitter. But
He gets roasted either way.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I don't know why.
I don't think it's necessarily him as much as it is just being the face of Ferrari.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. He's the face of Ferrari. So when something goes wrong, they're going to roast him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know what to do with that car. It's throw it in the trash, honestly.
Well, let's talk about the second thing that Ferrari did, and that was we'll kind of reverse to lap 2. So it's raining cats and dogs. Everybody's coming in for inters. Why would you not have the tires ready for your driver to come get?
Because they told him not to come in.
But it's raining.
I would have them tires
ready.
I would have them tires.
I think they were expecting him the following lap. But they didn't know he was coming until he was already in the pit lane and basically pulling in. Which that presents its own problems that they didn't know that. But apparently they were actually caught rather off guard by him popping in. They didn't think he was coming until it was basically too late.
Man, bump that. I would have had the entries ready the second I felt rain drops.
Well, my thing, and also to Michael's point, when they as they were pulling off, there's a radio communication. I don't remember which team it was, where they basically said, and this is on the formation lap, rain is 5 minutes out. And when they do the helicopter shot, which Formula One is great at doing the helicopter shots, by the way, you see the rain coming, and they have the radar.
You got the whole sea.
Yeah.
You have nothing obstructing your view.
There's no reason why they got caught out by that. They were just being stupid.
Like, even if you were you should have had the inters out and ready just in case. And he was not going to make it another lap if you saw how hard that rain was coming down.
I think they thought that the rain was only going to be for like 5 minutes and then over.
No.
And so I think they were waiting to see, because a couple other cars didn't come down either right away.
Yeah,
I think part of the grid, especially the lower half, was thinking that if they got through like a couple laps, they'd be fine. They just had to get through to like lap 5 and then they'd be good.
And Lewis tried that, but as you saw, and as we saw there, they were a good 10 to 15 seconds a lap slower than those guys that were on inters, because Max came in, got inters, and passed all the guys on softs like they were standing still.
But to be fair, he would have did that anyway.
Yeah, but it was even more impressive just because of the tire difference. Well, no, that was Checo that also came through there too. All the guys with the softs.
Nobody cares about him.
Yeah, according to data, he's caused over $2 million in damage to the car this year.
Jeez, Louise.
They had a thing, and the parity. So Mercedes has spent the least on driver error. Mm-hmm. Because I think George and Lewis are both about like $400,000 each.
Yeah, their wrecks haven't been big.
No, Checo's got like $2.6 million worth of damage, and Max had the least at like $200,000 worth of damage. And then I'll see if I can pull it up. It was interesting thing to see anyway.
Well, as we're talking about that, the second shot of rain, though, they had to go to the red flag. That was... I know everybody was putting on the wets, but I don't think I don't even think full wets would have made it. You were going to need hydroplanes to get around the track when that second storm came in.
Yeah, that was a real storm that came through. I put that link in the chat, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, that second storm, that one ended up catching... A bunch of guys ended up going off there. Checo went off. Joe, who's going to be out at the end of this year.
Oh, wait, he is?
Yeah.
He's going to be out. Or at least that's the rumor going
around. That's a driver who I didn't expect to be out.
I wasn't expecting it either.
He does not have a contract in place. There are 4 seats without a contract next year. Alfa Romeo 2, both Alpines, and then, not Alpines, both AlphaTauris, and then Williams 2. Yeah. Everything else has got a driver for next year.
And that was sewed up with Mercedes getting their drivers situated.
Both of them today. Congratulations, Daryl.
Yep, both of them 2-year deals. The worst kept secret in sports that those two were coming back. I think this is going to be Lewis's last contract. I don't see him coming back in 2026.
I don't know, man. Like,
I don't think so. New regulations. I think he's going to go enjoy retirement, a well-earned retirement.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be 40 when that comes up, 2026. I don't see him going that much longer.
No.
Actually, no, he'll be 41 when that season starts.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I see him riding off into the sunset to a degree.
Yeah. I know he wants the 8th. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think he wants the 8th championship, but also with how they're trying to balloon the schedule, him and Max have talked about this, by the way, with how badly they're trying to do the schedule. I just don't see it where he's going to keep going at 40 plus.
No. And we got a snippet from Max this week that he says that he thinks 28 might be a little too young to retire. So he might take on another contract in 2028, which is so freaking strange to say that in 2028 he'll be 28.
It feels like we've been talking about him in Formula One forever, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you keep
it makes me feel like a chump.
Yeah. Well, he started at age 19, so
yep.
It makes you kind of forget that he's been there this long.
And that he's only 23 or 24.
Yeah. And it feels like he's been here for over a decade already, which is wild.
Yeah. You know, I had that same realization, except for about Joey Logano like 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Joey is not that old, but he has been around forever.
Yes.
Not to bring it back to NASCAR, but
we've been talking about him since like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's
my age. He's 33.
Yeah.
I only know that because we share the same year.
Yeah. But what was this? What was his first year in Cup?
I think 2000, either 2008 or 2009?
2009 Loudon.
Yep.
Oh, no, sorry. That was his first win. First race was the 2008 Sylvania 300.
Yep, he was doing a partial schedule at that point. And then he did his first full year the next year with JGR. I'm still mad about that Loudon race because it rained and Jeff Gordon was leading and came to pit. And then Joey Logano got the lead. And then Joey Logano ended up winning the race.
Yeah.
But Max Verstappen, I mean, you know who won the race. I don't have to tell you that.
Except for it was a little fun to watch, though.
It was. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I don't need to tell you who won because we all know who won. And now we're going to Monza.
Can we just say that the Dutch won? They got vibe checked by the rain, and they said, "No, rain, you are not vibe checking us today."
Those folks, I don't know how much alcohol they had that day. I'm going to say yes. They were loving life during that rain delay.
Oh my God, they turned the techno up and they were just living large, man.
Those people were on one when that rain came down.
And props to them, 97% of the spectators rode bicycles.
Yeah. I mean, they love their bikes in the Netherlands. And they are a very bike-centric country. And I think they have I don't know if they take a bus in or something, but there's like a bike lot somewhere.
Yeah, there's a big bike lot.
There's a car park somewhere else, like a few miles away. Everybody parks there, and they ride their bikes into the facility proper.
Yeah.
And then they park their bikes at Zandvoort, which is ingenious when you think about it.
Yeah. Except for, I don't know if you guys saw the picture of the bike stacked up, though.
I have
I
not.
would not. I would not like to be one of the people that got there early in the morning because you got 50, 60 bikes you got to move to get to yours.
Well, if you're on the bottom stack, you take your
No,
time getting back.
well, it's
Also,
not like
how do you
that, but-
find your bike? Like, how do you find it?
I'm not saying stacked like that, but think about like you lean your bike against the wall, and then somebody else comes and lean theirs against yours against the wall. And
Oh,
so they were
jeez, I would.
stacked out. They were stacked out, and by the pictures, it looked like they were like 30, 40 bucks, 30, 40 bikes deep in the stacking. I'll show you guys the picture. I know I retweeted it. I think I retweeted it from the show
I
account.
see it. Oh my god! I just found a picture of it. I don't know how I'd find my bike in that, and they're all orange. I wonder if this is a situation where you just grab one and go because they're all the same bike. At least in the photo I'm looking at.
I don't know.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I just sent you guys the photo. But as we're getting ready for Monza, I really think...
Oh, that's not the one I saw. But
okay. While you're looking for that, we can talk about Monza a little bit. I think if you're Ferrari, you're just trying not to embarrass yourselves this week. Oh, good Lord. That's a lot.
There you
I
go.
would hate to have gotten there early.
See what I mean, though? Like...
Yeah. Yeah, that's... You're going to be waiting for a while if you got there early.
Yeah. Oh, nearest the win.
Well, we got to get to Monza, then nearest the win.
Oh,
so really quick on Monza. I think Ferrari's objective in front of the Tifosi is not embarrass themselves at this point.
You need to get a You need to get a podium. And your
Yeah,
other car, you need to have 2 cars scoring points
at minimum.
Yeah.
Michael, do you think they can make it happen?
No.
Jeez.
Maybe they can finish in points, but a podium, I do not know.
I just feel like they're going to have another pit road thing.
Pit road thing at Monza. Oh, yeah, GG's.
Yeah. So we'll see what they can do. But
they got some nice new liveries, though, so I don't know. It'll be nice to lose. They have a tribute to the 24-hour Le Mans livery.
Oh, a tribute to when they were last competent, huh?
Jeez, Daryl.
I mean, being honest.
Going for the neck.
I mean, he's not wrong.
I mean, Michael would have went there first.
I would have.
He's entitled to.
Yep. So we got nearest the win this week. It's a triple decker again. Chris, who'd everybody pick?
Give me just 1 second here. I'm filling mine out.
Okay. And while we do that, I'd like to remind everybody, make sure you check out iSportsRadio.com. You can find information about all of our shows, get some merchandise, and also take a listen to every show that we have done so far in the new era. And if you missed any episode of any iSports Radio show, remember you can always pick them up wherever you hear your podcast, as well as the YouTube repository, which has a copy of every show we've ever done.
All right. So, we'll start with NASCAR at Darlington. So Matt White did it first, so I'll read his. He is taking Denny. Michael is taking Denny. Daryl is taking Kyle Larson. Now I see why he was fighting me so bad on that Larson pick for the first 4 out. Yeah. And I'm taking good old Willie B. Shooting down to Monza. Matt White is he's actually got one more Mercedes pick after this week. He's taking Sir Lewis Hamilton. Michael is taking Charles. Daryl is taking Charles. And I am praying to the gods of speed that Alex Albon gets it done this week. I think Monza's pretty well suited to their car. And then for IndyCar, we're going to be in Portland. Matt White is taking Scott Dixon. Michael is taking Alex Palou. Daryl is taking Malukas. That's actually a low key. That's a good pick. Mm-hmm. I'm actually kind of jealous I didn't do that. And I'm going to take Newgarden.
It's going to be a good week. Good luck to everyone's picks to win this week. I mean, a great 3-day weekend. It's going to try to get outside, of course. And make sure you enjoy yourselves this weekend. Remember, if you want to talk to us on Twitter, Chris is at Fiji Sims. Michael's at Michael_Ward25. And make sure you follow our pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And make sure also you check out the iSports Radio pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well. And also, the podcast at some point will also be coming to TikTok. Watch out for that in the near future. So we're going to get ready to close out this episode of The Extra Mile. For Chris and Michael, I'm Daryl. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. We will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.